Hello, good evening, Merry Christmas, and welcome to episode 16 of the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and tonight I'm joined by two of our regular pundits. The man that was once mistaken for Eddie Howe in the top right-hand corner, that's Chris Tyler, Father Christmas himself with a night off, knocker in the bottom, and I'm delighted to welcome back onto the show some radio royalty in the form of BBC WM's Daz Hale. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight on the agenda, we're going to analyse the Chelsea game, talk about Bruno's work so far. We're going to talk about Kante's catch and VAR. We'll look at the player of the season so far, in your opinion. Talk a little bit more in detail on why we've taken the £30 million loan, questions, and looking ahead to Watford. So loads to talk about. Let's get straight stuck into the Chelsea game. Overall, if you're off me 0-0 before the game, I'd have snapped your hand off. They said they had lots of injuries and COVID, but that Chelsea team still looked pretty strong to me. So, Daz, what was your take on the Chelsea game?
Never mind me take on the Chelsea game. My take on these Christmas outfits. Extraordinary. And you haven't commented on the fact that I'm not wearing it. But can I just reveal now that I am actually wearing some Christmas pants? And I've been wearing them throughout the festive period, and I get criticism for it, but I'll tell you what, I'm sticking to them.
Let's have a look then, Daz. Let's have a look.
Are those the ones I lent you last year? But yeah, Chelsea.
Yeah, let's all play violins for Chelsea, who started the game with 7 of the players in the starting lineup who started the Champions League final, and they then had hundreds of millions of pounds worth of signings on the bench. The very fact that he only decided to put 4 on the bench was just playing games again, because you're telling me, Wolves' bench was full of kids, and yet Wolves had 6 players, with only a squad of 2021, had 6 players unavailable, including Bolly, which I'm still not sure what that was about, or is about. So let's just not buy that straight away. They just wanted a little break before Christmas. But I actually thought, again, when you look at the team selection, you never quite know which way it's going to go, but I think he got it spot on again. And unfortunately, there was just perhaps a few players at the top end of the field who, I think it was Jimenez's poorest game for quite some time, and I think he looked well off it second half. But we're very, very well organised now, and it's not just the fact that we're not conceding goals; we're actually not conceding chances. I mean, for a team like Chelsea to have one chance in 95 minutes or whatever it was speaks volumes for me.
I mean, like you said, then, Daz, the shape of the team now is as good as I've seen it. I've been watching Wolves 31, 32 years. The defensive back three, if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, Cody, Kilman and Sace are going to be the third or fourth best defence statistically in the Premier League come Christmas, I would not have believed you. So, Tyler, can you...
when you consider it's 2 different wing-backs as well. I mean, I know Marcel's played the last couple of games, but, even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the wing backs actually did okay. I mean, I don't think those pair are as good offensively as probably our first choice to if everyone's fit. But Tyler, can you add some more on what Daz has said on that?
As you know, I'm Hoover's biggest critic. I thought he had a good game. I'm not Marcel's biggest fan. I thought he had a good game. And we had a few texts knocking around when we saw the lineup, and you think, "Oh, crikey, here we go." But
it just looked flat, didn't it? On paper, it looked flat.
Yeah, it did, but I was happy with it. The goal, if Jimenez doesn't go to attack that ball, we 1-0 up. And then Donker's header, I mean, the guy's like 6'3", 6'4". He's just got to bury the header. And you're going at half time and you're 1-0 up, aren't you? And you've got something to hold on to. But Daz is right. I think for Wolves to lose a game now, the other team have got to be very, very good. And they've got to be on their ball to beat us. We don't concede chances. I mean, Sar's save was excellent. It was a good one-handed save, wasn't it? But when I saw the lineup, I thought, can't see much today. But I thought Hoover and Marcel, to be fair, to them, were very good. And the back three, we've back lyrical about them, haven't we, on here most weeks? But I thought they were outstanding. And Cody, for me, I know Kilman and Neves sometimes get the plaudits, but Cody, for me, was superb.
I mean, I'm not going to get you to talk about the defence again, Knocker, because clearly we're all in agreement. But there was a middle spell in the game in the first half, about the 20-25 minutes, when Wolves were the better side. They were playing the football, they looked attacking, and that looked like we were the complete package then, because we were hard to break down, and there was more football. I know that didn't happen so much in the second half, and it was almost a case of what we have, we hold. But was you a little bit disappointed not to see more attacking intent in the second half?
To a point, yeah, but I think that was mainly down to the changes that Chelsea had made. They'd realised what we were doing, and they'd come up with a bit of a plan B to try and pin us back a little bit. And I think they used the wing backs in particular, and they tried to hit us down the flanks and just try and put us under a little bit more pressure, which naturally dropped us back a few more yards. And then I think when we got to sort of 70, 75 minutes, I think we were just happy then to sit deep and just try and take the point. But just going back to the defence, I know that we've already spoken about it, but I think the most telling thing about the defence is the fact that we were able to change both wing backs and we were still just as good. So it shows you how good those three centre halves are and how effective they are. And I think that, you know, the tackle from Connor Cody on Mason Mount, just the positional sense and everything, we look a really good team. And I think Jimenez isn't at his best, but for me, the games, he missed the Brighton game, which I think would have been a real good game for him. But the games he's been playing, they're not really games you'd expect us to get him into much because of the way we're going to play and the situation we're going to be in. So I'll judge him more after we've had the next few fixtures and we know where we are then, whether he's struggling or whether it's just a case of he's finding his feet still.
And it will happen at some point, by the way, and it probably happened now on Boxing Day, and I don't want a load of abuse if it does, but we're also the only team, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only team in the Premier League who hasn't yet conceded from a corner. And when you consider last season...
Oh, nice one.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I know.
Here we go.
It's going to happen to some...
It's a Christmas miracle.
We must be the only team in the Premier League who hasn't had a penalty yet this season.
There we go. That's
more
like it.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
But last season, every time the ball went wide, every time a team had a set play of any kind, it was pretty much as good as a penalty, wasn't it, to them? And I think we've spoken about the goalkeeper before. I don't underestimate the impact he's made, because we talked before about Patricio is a very good line goalkeeper. This bloke is commanding, isn't he? And he comes for crosses, and he's very, very vocal as well. So I think he's made a massive impact, and you can see that. I think everybody's benefiting from having his presence and his distribution. Although I didn't think it's best on Sunday, his distribution has been exceptional as well, generally speaking.
Yeah, but Daz, what's the difference? That I know the keeper's changed, but they're the same back three that we've had. So why all of a sudden do we look solid as a rock from set pieces, from open play, and end of last season and before we looked like we were going to concede every time we gave something away? What is it? If it's the coaching, the management, or
and also I think it's having a settled back three. Again, don't underestimate that when you're chopping and changing, and whereas before, you know, even when Bolly was in the team, he'd be left side one week, he'd be right side the next, he wouldn't be in the next. Chopping and changing. They've now got a unit who are just in the groove and in the rhythm, aren't they? And there'll come a point when one of them gets injured, or one of them gets suspended, or they have a bad game, or and then they'll have to change again. But at the moment, it just seems as if there's that continuity. And it's like any place you work, if you work with the same people day in, day out, you get to know each other's game, don't you? And I think that's probably a factor as well, in the fact that but it's extraordinary, the transformation defensively.
I mean, I would go as far as saying that this is the best looking Wolves defence I've ever seen. And as I said at the start of the show, if you'd have said that to me at the start of the season, you'd have been laughed at. People would have laughed at you that you've got two left-footed players in there, one who was traditionally a midfielder, another one who started as a midfielder, and now it looks like the best defensive three we've had probably in our lifetimes. It looks tremendous. So yeah, credit to Bruno for that. But I think one of the big reasons as well, as I know you've mentioned the keeper, but Max Kilman, the evolution or the revolution that is Max Kilman has been incredible. He seems to be getting better every game. He's more confident. Yeah. You wouldn't know that he's left-footed because he brings it out with his right foot and he pings that ball into the feet of the forwards or the midfield. Absolutely tremendous. So, yeah, going back to the game, I think it's definitely a point gained. I mean, we're looking at the last three games against the top three, 1-0, 1-0, 0-0. There's not many teams that are going to do that. And I know I don't want to be glorious in defeat and getting excited about losing 1-0, but it's certainly something to build on. Teams will have watched now and they know, as you said earlier on, Tyler, you've got to do something good to beat Wolves now. Yeah. There's no easy game now. So turning on to that then, that positivity we saw, we need some more of that against Watford, don't we, Knocker?
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll be on the front foot a little bit more in that game. Raul should hopefully have a few more opportunities. I think we've got to stick with Podence. Hopefully we stick with Adama as well and really try and stretch them a little bit. They're very vulnerable defensively. They don't score too many goals. So I think it's a real opportunity for us to keep what the basics, keep us solid at the back. Let's not give anything daft away. But I think there's a real opportunity for us to get 3 points in this game because Watford aren't great at all. And with the quality we have got up front, if we can use it effectively and just play 10 yards further forward, there's no reason for me we can't be looking at winning that game.
Something I picked up on then, that this is really going to feed into a question we had on Twitter, was about Raul Jimenez. Now, a couple of people have questioned Jimenez's form recently. Now, firstly, I would come to the defence of that and saying, if you're not going to feed him or give him any service, and he's almost a defensive forward, that's not his game. His game is he can link the play high up and he can finish. But if you're not giving him the opportunities, how can you expect him to play well? So, I mean, we saw the question from Andy Hipkins, and it's a fair question because obviously at Brighton, Wolves are a little bit more fluid, particularly in the second half. Are Wolves potentially more fluid without Raul Jimenez? Now,
no chance.
In that game, you would say they were, but it was the easiest fixture of a really tough run of games we've had. So a little bit harsh on Raul, maybe.
I think he's a team player, and for me, he came deep to support the midfield, and he's so deep at the minute. He's almost playing as an extra midfielder, and that's the kind of sacrifice that perhaps we needed to keep us a little bit more solid in midfield. So there's no reason for me he can't be 10 yards further forward. And if you do take him out, what on earth do you do? Because there's no way you can Silva in. I don't think you're playing a two of Adama and Podence or Trincao, because that's never going to work in a million years. So for me, he has to play. You stick with him, build his confidence back up. He scored arguably the 2 best goals of the season. And I think he's a top player. You know, there's no way you're bombing him out after the run of fixtures we've had. For me, he's still by far and away the best striker at the club without any shadow of a doubt. So yeah, no, I'm not taking him outside under no circumstances as long as he's fit.
Yeah, I think it's an easy target, an easy thing to say, because when you see a striker that's not really doing anything in a game, but you're playing defensive football, it's an easy target, isn't it? But when you look at the fixtures, how are you supposed to deliver it in those? So anyway, let's go on to a positive. We've talked about Chelsea. I want to talk about Bruno's work so far, and then we'll go back to something else then. But Tyler, your take on Bruno's work so far, almost halfway through the season.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, now? We're one game away being halfway through, and I'm probably still not fully made my mind up. But the one thing, thinking about it, I don't think any Wolves fan can criticise is the points return and probably the league position. I think we'd all take where we are, 8th in the league, 25 points is it, I think. You can't criticise that, can you? You just can't. There's been games where we'd probably like to see a bit more attacking intent, and then there's been games where we feel a bit unlucky. There's been games we've probably been lucky to get points from. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, really. But I think from a half-term assessment as you get in a school, I think it's a decent grade, isn't it? We're 8th in the league. We're on 25 points. I don't think we're in any fear of being sucked into the relegation fight. And who knows? I know we talked about the transfer window a lot. With a couple of extra players, we could have a really good side. But he's been dealt a pack of cards that he's got no centre backs. He's said he's only got 3 defenders to work with. We've only got 3 centre midfielders to work with. We've only got 1 striker. I don't think you can really criticise where he's got us and the points that we've got to this point, in my opinion.
Daz, what do you make of Bruno so far?
I agree with what I've just heard. If you look at what he's done in the transfer market, I think Hwang looks a player. I know, again, I think he's been struggling for fitness a little bit lately. Jose Sarr, we've already talked about. Ryan Aït-Nouri was already there, but they made the decision to bring him in. Mosquera, that was his man to go with the back 4, wasn't it? And he just haven't got him fit. And the only one who hasn't come off this season's Vitinha, ladies and gentlemen, Trincao, which he may well yet come off. I mean, it took Pedro Neto a while. I think he started playing the sort of football those first 3 games. We had 50 shots, didn't we? Couldn't score. That's what he wants to do. That's the way he wants to play. But I think he quickly realised that he doesn't, for now, have the personnel to play that way. And so he was intelligent enough to actually think, you know what, we need to rethink this for now. And he's talked a lot about just getting points and grinding out points. So to have got this far with what is in his team, and he was very vocal towards the end of August that he wanted more players, and they got him whanging, didn't they? And then sent Gibbs White out on the same day. He still wants more, so it's really difficult to judge the bloke at the moment. And yet, before we went on air, we were just saying that if they win on Boxing Day, they go 5th in the Premier League, if only for a couple of hours. So, considering I think he's having to make do and mend to a degree, I think he's done really well. And the other thing about Raul is, haven't we learned anything? 12 months ago, we were left in a real mess because he was unavailable, obviously, after what happened. We've come into this season in exactly the same situation. He's the only player we have got who can play that role. And with poor Fabio, and I do say poor Fabio because he's not getting any game time at all in the first team, and yet he's not getting any game time at all in the under-23. So how on earth is the lad supposed to develop if he's not playing anywhere? And I'm guessing that clearly Bruno don't fancy him either. I mean, it's Jeff's vanity project. I mean, I think what will probably happen is either in January or possibly next summer, he will quietly go out on loan somewhere, a bit like Rafa Mir did or something like that, and then eventually disappear for an undisclosed fee a year or 18 months later. I really hope I'm wrong. But I don't know what you guys think. I've not seen anything to suggest that he's anywhere near Premier League standard.
No, I mean, just with Fabio, I think the manager's in a catch-22, isn't he? Because if you play him in the under-21s or the development 23s, whatever they're called, and he gets injured, you're left with one then you're in big trouble. So I think he's kind of got to protect him because he's literally the only other forward that we've got, because that's how thin on the ground is, because there is hardly any other options. And don't get me wrong.
But he can't be match fit, though. He's not going to be match sharp, is he?
Yeah, the only way you get fit is by playing games. But
he wouldn't even play him, though, would he? I mean, if Raul got injured, if Raul gets injured, he won't bring him on.
You'd have to play him now.
I don't think he would.
He didn't play him, did he?
Yeah, but if Hwang's injured and his hamstrings out, his hammies for a while, what else do you do for Raul's out? There isn't anybody else.
I think he'd rather go for Denson and Adama up front than he would to play Silva. I don't see any situation Silva plays. No, I mean, and he's not getting any game time at all, is he? I mean, if you played him an entire Premier League season, what are you going to get out of him? 4 goals, maybe 5. He's no way he's on Bruno's list at all. I don't see any to. Well, all right, we'll swap him for him then and see how we get on. But I think I don't see any situation where Fabio plays, regardless of personnel that we lose. I think it's curtains. I really do.
And that's no criticism of him.
No, it's not his fault. No.
Really, really struggling now, I'd imagine, mentally, because he's an 18, 19-year-old kid who was like given this big fanfare, came over, really struggled last season. You could see he was perhaps trying too hard at times. He's miles away from home, miles away from his family. And he ain't even getting to play football now. At least, he's not getting anything. So no one wins in this situation.
But what was that transfer all about? I mean, I know people laugh and joke about it, but £35 million. The Jota money was basically reinvested in him. I mean, you can laugh and joke about it, but what jokes aside, it's.
Well, Jeff said he's a generational talent. He may be proven right. I really hope he is. But as I say, at the moment, I've not seen anything apart from effort. And that's all I've seen.
It just seems so arrogant, though, didn't it? It's so arrogant to make a signing like that when you're a club of our size and you know the players available. You know, you could have got Divock Origi or someone like that in for that kind of money, and you're spending it on a player. And it's just the most bizarre transfer I think I've ever seen.
Could have got Danny Ings for 28.
Could have got Danny Ings.
Ollie Watkins. Yeah. We talked about Watkins, haven't we, for the same price? I mean, we don't like the neighbours at the road.
Eddie Dzeko would have been available. Giroud, anyone.
We should do it every week, but
if ever a transfer needed investigating, it was that one, wasn't it? Because I know Mendes has his, there is a Mendes merry-go-round with things, but
he's not one of his clients, is he? Fabio isn't one of his clients.
No, the whole thing just doesn't fit, though, does it? The whole thing just doesn't seem to have any
project
sense.
From Jeff Shee.
Just to play devil's advocate, because obviously with this now, according to the books, because obviously they don't disclose player names in terms of their accounts, but I mean, I'm not making up for it or justifying it, but the final fee is 35 or 36 million if he appearances, goals, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you look at Porto's accounts, which someone told me to have a look at, it's roughly about 20 million. That doesn't make me feel any better because it's still 20 million on an unproven footballer. But I think the
35 million if he scores so many goals, plays international football, and wins Strictly Come Dancing and the Bake Off. I think he's got more chance of the last two than the first two. Anyway.
Oh, Daz, I'd love to see you on. I'd love to see you on Strictly.
King of the dance floor.
It's just not what we thought we'd talk.
Not in these pants.
And whilst everyone's watching, please, everyone, just take a little look at Knocker Claus's nativity set up for this evening. Look at it. The stuff spinning round. There's straw.
I've left one out as well, Angle.
There we go. Look at this.
There we go.
I mean,
quality.
Bringing you live action from a live nativity play. Knocker Claus, bringing something to the show. So yeah, just while we round off on what I know we digressed a little bit then in terms of going to Fabio, but what Bruno's done so far, a few people have said, I mean, there's a comment here from still with what if Bruno got this job on the back of his work with young players, Joe Felix, and he's here to get the most out of Fabio. Now, that may be true, and there's a good opportunity, but if if the manager doesn't trust him, he's not going to play him just to get him better, because we can't, with our system, we only play with one forward. So it's a really good point. And I mean, was it Ruben Diaz as well he worked with? Joe Felix, he worked with some tremendous young footballers, and look at these guys now. So it's a really interesting point, but do we have time to blood him in? I mean, I think we'll probably see him in the cup game against Sheffield United. I think that's when we'll see him next. I think it'd be almost criminal if he didn't start that game. I'd be really surprised then. I think we'll see anyone that hasn't had a game recently. Hopefully, that includes Fabio in there as well. But yeah, I think Bruno's done a good job so far. And as a few people have said, if he's done this with someone else's squad, apart from a sprinkling here and there, what can he do when he's got his own players to play his own system and his own setup? What can we expect then? Because I actually think he's overachieved. Yes, sometimes, you know what, there's been a few frustrating games. Norwich, Burnley were a little bit frustrating in some of the games, some of the timing of the subs. But as you guys rightly mentioned, look at the league table. And as Daz and Tyler said, we go up to 5th in the Premier League with a win. I mean, that's how well he's done. I'm going to give Bruno. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Now, I didn't think I'd do that, and you know what? It's not been the flow in football recently, but it's not going to be against the top teams. But the more I look at what he's got, how has that defense improved? I don't understand, because we thought Cody wouldn't make it. We thought Sace wasn't going to make it, and we thought Kimon was going to be sold, and he's turned 3 players that we thought might here or there into like one of the best defenses in the Premier League. And like, I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth.
He's got to get the other end right as well, hasn't he? You know,
but that's massive. Yes, that's massive.
Yeah, but the one real
find the balance of getting it the other end of the pitch as well, hasn't he?
But the major positive about only having scored 13 goals this season is we don't have to hear that bloody goal music every 5 minutes. It's not 1995.
What? Whose decision's that? Come on, Dan.
I don't. I mean, obviously we know the music from Europe, and I got it last season when we were playing behind closed doors. It was good. It was a moment. Come on. It's like when they play. You'd be 4-0 down, and you go back to 4-1, and they'd put "I Feel Good" on. I don't feel good. It's 4-1.
Happened a lot in the 90s as well.
Yeah.
Oh, 90s was painful. Daz, Daz, what's your marks out of 10 then for Bruno?
I'll give him a 7.
7 for
based on where it's a difficult one, because I think there's some real positives. I mean, it's nice to have a manager who's brave enough to change his system when he thinks it's not working. I mean, first few games of the season, as Daz rightly said, we were racking shots in all over the place, but we weren't scoring. We've had a lot of managers in the past who were so stubborn that they just sat with their formation. This is my formation. This is my team. I'm going to play this no matter what. He identified the situation we were in and kind of sacrificed performances for points and got us back on track. So I think that's a huge tick in the box for him. Yeah. I want to see more up front. You know, we are in a good position. We are doing well. But I think there's a lot of points that we've left out there through poor substitutions. I'm thinking of Leeds in particular. So I think as well as he is doing, I think that he's got an opportunity to have done a little bit better. There's maybe 5-6 points that we should be better off. But I want to see him back. I want to see what he can do when he's got his team, because at the moment he's absolutely working with Nuno's team. He's doing his best with what he's got, basically. So I'd love to see him get 2 or 3 signings in this window, another 2 or 3 signings in the summer, and let's just see what he can actually do when he's got the team he wants.
Well, he's been quite vocal again, saying, hasn't he,
Yeah.
that what he wants and what he wants again in January. So if he doesn't get it, then I wonder whether they'll be heading for some sort of collision course. Because whereas Nuno would a lot more toe the party line publicly, he ain't towing the party. He's been putting 2 goalkeepers on the bench for weeks, just to, you know.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll get it, Daz? Do you think he'll get what he wants in the window?
Don't know. No idea.
Because we've had the conversation a few times, and we're kind of split. Ryan thinks that he may get a bit of backing. I think we'll be worse coming out the window than we were going into it. I just think no one really knows what direction we're heading in at the moment, and I think I still don't think we'll sign anyone. I think if we do, I don't think we'll sign anyone of note going into the window. I think that I'd be amazed if we went out there and spent more than 6 or 7 million on a player.
I think, and I know that you want to talk about this loan that they've took in as well. Look, for everything that's going on, and I know that's what seduced Fosun more than anything, I think, is the logo and is the brand, the Wolves, and it's worldwide with esports and record labels and everything else that they've got their eye, Formula One and everything. But let's not lose sight of the fact that all of these things have only got kudos if the Wolves are a Premier League team. Yeah. Because the minute you've got, it's the Wolves, prattling about in the middle of the Championship, who cares? So that has got, and they're not hard up for money. So ultimately, we keep hearing that they're doing all of this eventually to put it back in the team. And only time will tell, but that the Wolverhampton Wanderers being a good Premier League club is vital to everything else, because everything else is worth diddly squat. It's nothing if Wolves aren't amongst the big hitters, or at least trying to be amongst the big hitters. So that's the only thing that encourages me to think that it should be okay. But I don't know. I've not heard anything from within or anything like that. It's just from the outside looking in.
Jumping onto that, Knocker. Now, I think they will. I don't see them just not signing anybody. Now, I'm still convinced that Adama will go in January, because if you get to next summer, then you're going to make a couple of million profit on a player with 12 months, who then could say, I'm going to hold on till Christmas and I'll sign a pre-agreement and lose him for nothing. These are business people. They haven't made a multi-billion-pound conglomerate by fluke. They're business people. So if Adama doesn't sign, he'll be off. And I think whether he likes it or not, I'll be really, really surprised. And that's where I think the money will come from. But I want to talk about that loan in a bit as well, because just a few pointers to get your opinions as well and try and add something with that. But you know what? We're halfway through, so let's talk about the loan now. Then, so I think it was via Macquarie loan, who the Wolves have done business with in the past in terms of loans, of securing a 30 million loan, I believe, over a couple of years. Basically, it's to get in the money early that would have got for Jota with the deal that was agreed that with Liverpool. I don't really understand how Wolves did that. I think it was up to 45 million. I think it's 40 plus the 5 if it could be over a couple of years. Now, a couple of things with that. I've been given some information earlier on. It's apparently it's not uncommon to securitise any income against future money. So a number of Premier League clubs do this anyway. So what they've done there really isn't against the mould. So, but then we're looking at it in terms of, does it look like it's reaffirming the business model in terms of being self-sufficient? Are they protecting themselves against another lockdown? Because obviously you're losing gates, match day revenue. I don't know what else you lose in terms of match day, but are they protecting against that? So yeah, it's an interesting one. I just, in terms of getting your opinions on that, why do you think they've done it now? I mean, the positive side for me was, are we going shopping in January then? Are we in the January sales? Or are the club protecting themselves against another massive COVID outbreak and no fans in the stadiums? Knocker, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to think it was for transfers, but I think we had a conversation about it earlier, didn't we? And I think you're spot on, mate. I think it is protecting against future issues. I think that COVID is not going anywhere. I think that we're steaming towards a lockdown, although it'll be named slightly differently. It'll be a circuit breaker. Football's heading for behind closed doors football again. If it doesn't, it's looking at a reduced capacity. So personally, I don't think it's to bring in new players. I think it's more likely to be to make sure the club is stabilised going through this period. and then hopefully if we come out the other side of it, we won't be in too much trouble as a result of it. So yeah, I don't think it's for players. I think it's just to protect the club.
What's your take on it, Daz?
Well, from the outside looking in, what you've said, really, I think it could quite easily have gone under the radar. If you don't, I think was it Liam Keane who picked up on it?
Yeah, Liam from the Express and Star,
yeah, which was really good journalism. Again, probably cash flow. Again, they're worth billion. They've always got as much money as Franksy. Folks.
No, they haven't.
They almost. So they ain't short of money. But I think this is quite common practice. But again, it may be to do with tax. It may be to do, like bottom line on accounts with the tax year obviously coming to the end in April. Who knows? But it's certainly not because they're skint or anything like that. So it may be, as you say, because now that they're trying to be a self-sufficient entity, that just to get the money in now that were due in the future because of this. Again, it's good. It's good bookkeeping. It's good business. They're being proactive and they're looking at what potentially may happen again in the next few weeks. So without being a financial expert, it looks like it's probably a lot of other clubs are probably doing the same thing as well, but it hasn't been reported.
Yeah, apparently it's not. It's quite common in the Premier League for this kind of thing to happen because, like, it's not like it was 10 years ago. Even now, so many more transfers are staggered over 2 or 3 years, and percentages, sell-ons. It's the transfers now are completely different. It can be over like 4 or 5 years, and obviously then.
I bought my telly.
Tyler, what's your?
You mix your television.
Tyler, what's your take on the loan?
I mean, I'm similar to you guys. I'm no financial expert, but one question for me is: if you've got a team like Liverpool, who claim to be one of the biggest clubs in world football, and they want to buy one of your assets, get the money up front. Why are we sort of bending down to Liverpool to say, "Oh, we'll pay you over 2 or 3 years, and we'll pay you in instalments"? I mean, they've not long won the Champions League. They've not long won the Premier League. Get the money up front. I mean, it might be a bit old-fashioned and it might be a bit out of the times, but if you've got a prized asset and you're happy to sell it, get the money in the bank then. I'm not worried by it. I'm not concerned by it. It doesn't bring me back to the 80s and where we've had to borrow money to pay the bills. But I do think if you've got big teams like that coming in for your players, play hardball, get the money up front.
But even
I think the issue is though, Jota wanted to go, didn't he? I think if Jota wants to leave, you've then got to do the best deal you can for the club. So if you can get 40 million straight away, or you can get 45 million if you split it over a few years, a financial body you're going to take the longevity.
Well, it's same with anyone when you finance it, you better buy it outright, you better finance it over a period.
I think with both Doherty and Jota, actually, it was Nuno's decision first and foremost. Jota we've missed massively, and he's done brilliantly, but he weren't in the team, and he I don't know whether he down tools, or whether he was just exhausted or was off. He was dreadful after we came back to Project Restart, and he weren't getting in. He weren't nowhere near. Well, he was sub, wasn't he? So fair play to him. But let's not forget Liverpool, Man United, all these clubs as well. They're hundreds of millions of pounds in debt, even though it's not. It's like it's all like Bitcoin or Monopoly money. It's not real. Pounds, shillings, and pence and balance sheets. But
you say with Jota, does. I'd argue, and I know I'll go on about some either, but I'd argue with Miss Doherty just as much.
Yeah, no, I would. I
would genuinely argue that point. Yeah, that goals and assists from that right hand side.
Agreed.
Just jumping on that then, Tyler. Would you swap? But you wouldn't swap Doherty for Semedo now, would you?
Yeah.
You would? You'd bring him back?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to bring him into a team that plays like that defensively. No way.
If you look at the stats and the figures.
Yeah, it's a no argument. If you look at the assists and you look at the goals, it's not even an argument. It's not even close. But I'm not sure he fits.
There was a bond there. There's a bond between Doherty, Jimenez, even Adama to a point.
Yes,
Nelson
massively.
Down
that right hand side.
But Doherty was almost, although we lined up when defending with a 5 and when attacking with a 3. he was allowed freedom quite often when he'd be the highest man at the pitch. So I don't think he was always a right back or a right wing back. He was almost a forward. The amount of times he'd be so high up the pitch. But that system was sort of, because he had a natural ability, the timing of Matt's runs were off the chart. It was as good as anybody. You know what, mate, not the most gifted footballer, but in terms of his intelligence, runs into the box to be for a cross. I mean, the headed goal away at in the Europa League at Braga, the run, it was just off the chart. But I don't think he fits in to how we.
But since he left, look at the goals for ever since he's gone.
That's a fair point. I can't argue that.
And he's had a nightmare, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's absolutely vilified.
For the sake of £15 million, surely you'd be better off just still with us.
I think
he guaranteed
you'd probably get him back for half that, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah.
He guaranteed you 6 goals a season and another 8 assists, didn't he? And Semedo's never going to hit them numbers at Wolves. I'm not saying Semedo's a bad player, but I think the way we play now doesn't suit Semedo. When Doc was at the team, he'd probably be struggling now if he was at this team, because we don't use the wing backs the way that we used to use them under Nuno. We're very much more progressive through midfield, so he would suffer. But you know, the stats don't lie. Doc got you 6 goals a season. He got you at least 8 or 9 assists every single season. So if you're weighing it up on balance of which was the better signing, there's only one winner there for me.
Yeah, one of those cost 200 grand, and one of them cost 37 million.
Well, again, Semedo doesn't. It's not 37 unless he hits all the goals. But yeah, I get your point. I've got to play devil's advocate. We can't.
But if he's do that, is he? Let's be honest.
If he's not hitting the goals, though, he's not a good signing, is he? Because that's the whole reason we brought him in, was to take us to the next level. So if he's not achieving those targets to get the full balance of the payment, then it's not been a successful transfer, is it?
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think that should be a slight on Semedo, because I like Semedo. I think
like him too.
I think he's having a decent season. I think he didn't have a great year. I think he's all right, Tyler. I think he's having a decent season.
Yeah,
he's part of a back five that's the 3rd or 4th best defence in the Premier League. He's played a massive part in that. Defensively, like the other 4, he's improved. Aït-Nouri defensively is improved massively. And you know what? Marcel was upsetting me after 3 or 4 games, but you've got to say as well, he's been fantastic since he's come back in for Aït-Nouri.
So let me ask you this, Ryan. Let me ask you this, Ryan.
Give you something at the other end of the pitch, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you play 3 centre-halves, your wing backs have to give you more at that end of the pitch.
If I said to you now, Ryan, you can either keep Aït-Nouri or keep Semedo, which one are you keeping?
Oh, I'm keeping Aït-Nouri all day.
So financially, it's been a disaster, hasn't it? If we're being totally honest, financially, it's an absolute disaster. You're talking 40 plus million for a player who's not really made an impact. And look at, we all talk about Silva for the similar kind of money.
Yeah.
Neither of them have done particularly well, if we're being totally honest.
Semedo just flatters to deceive me. I don't get it.
If we end up in one of the European spots this season, which is odds against, I would say, but again, if they win, they go 5th on Sunday, then it'll be financially. It'll be his 2nd season. Then you can say, it was vindicated because we've got back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Europe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you. I think the point you made about his relationship on that right hand side, that understanding with Traore was key, and it added to the balance. And he offered a lot more going forward. But I would say I agree with Ryan. I think defensively this season, Semedo, he was quite suspect last season. But he's been a lot more solid, hasn't he, this year? And I think his concentration levels, as much as anything, and perhaps playing with the crowd may have helped him, because he was playing, 80,000 at Barcelona, and then from to
nobody more. Just a quick question then, and there's a bit of football snobbery in this question, because I see people saying, I know Spurs have gone out recently, other clubs. I got to be honest, if Wolves got into the Conference League, I'd be buzzing. Trips to clubs I'd never get to go to, European football, the days out. I don't care the level of the competition. I want Wolves to play in Europe. And if you're doing that, I know the prize, I think, then is you automatically qualify for the Europa League, as the Europa League, if you win that, it's Champions League. But for me, if you finish 7th and get in the Europa League, I'm grabbing that with 2 hands.
For it. That last couple of years ago was.
But isn't the snobbery though with some teams? Oh, what's the point? I don't want to be in that. I don't want to play sausage roll Rovers from so and so division. And but who cares? It's a European trip. You're going to go watch your team in Europe.
Your sausage rolls that would be big, wouldn't they, Ryan?
I wonder where you were going with that, mate. I'm glad you turned that corner.
And that isn't even the worst that we could have played.
What's that tournament Tottenham have been in? Tottenham have been in demoted Europa League. I don't get that one. Europa League I can deal with. But what
are you not for the Conference League then, Eddie?
No.
I'd rip your hand off for the Conference League.
Oh, me too.
I'd absolutely rip your hand off. Why can't you win it? You're playing some awful teams. You're playing some real low-quality teams.
But
it's a tournament. It's a trophy.
They might even give us the Olympiacos money back.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I won't hold my breath, Daz.
Yeah. Tyler, just one thing to end that, because we've got so much to squeeze, and we've got 20 minutes left. Now, we talk about that. Wolves last won a trophy in 1980. We've had one taste of European football, and it was the greatest year watching Wolves. It was tremendous. I don't care who we play. I want to see Wolves in Europe. I want that opportunity. But
I'm just different. I'm just different. It doesn't interest me. I'm like what Daz said about Fosun. I think as long as Wolves are a Premier League club, I'm happy with that. I mean, we're never going to win the Europa League or the Champions League. I don't even think we're ever going to win the FA Cup. So
we could win the Conference League.
That's a good point.
Solid Wolves are in it next season, Mark. So yeah, see what you want to do with that. But
they'll probably do us over 2 legs.
Tyler, are you telling me then if the final wasn't in Amsterdam, you're playing at Ajax's stadium, I don't know if it's the Johan Cruyff Stadium, whatever it's called. You're playing in the final there. You can take 30,000 Wolves fans, and you're not going, mate.
No. Tyler's a regular in Amsterdam as well, so there's no way you wouldn't. There's no way you wouldn't be all over that. But why wouldn't you want to win a trophy though? You know, I was at the Sherpa Van when we won that. It was a fantastic day. We won a trophy. I don't care who you're playing against. I don't care what level you're playing at.
You're a lot older than me.
It doesn't matter what level you play. That's the point. If there's a trophy up for grabs and you have got it's within your reach to win it, you should go absolutely all out and try and win that.
That Conference League is a shambles. What are Tottenham doing in that conference?
Tyler, you're forgetting who we are and where we've been. We are now an established Premier League club. We're trophyless. All right, we're trophyless in our lifetimes, apart from Daz, who saw 2 FA Cups. We are trophyless.
It's not small time. It's not small time mentality, sir.
It's a bit of a dig, wasn't it? Right?
It was a bit of a dig. It would be a small time mentality to think all we should do is sit in the middle of the Premier League for the rest of our lives. For me, if there's a trophy up for grabs, I want them to go all out and win it. If we finish 6th from bottom and win the trophy, I'll rip your hand off for that.
This jumps in nicely with the next point. I've only got 20 minutes left. We've only got 20 minutes left. Steve Leaves on Twitter, a good friend of mine, really good guy, knows his football. He said, should we really go for the FA Cup, given our league position? A proper go at it. Steve Lees asking that. So I've got to be honest, Nuno last season proper broke my heart with that Southampton team. It really hurt, that did, because we'd had a taste of Wembley with our hearts broken against Watford, and there was a chance against Southampton to reach the quarter-final, and we'd have played Bournemouth for a chance to get to Wembley. And we played the reserves. So I think it's a rhetorical question because he knows what we're going to say, but surely we'd be going through the FA Cup. A couple of more points. We've got to be going for it, haven't we?
You'd like to think so, but have we got the squad to go for it? I mean, do you risk Raul? Do you risk Adama? Do you risk players who are influential? I'd love us to go for it, but I don't think we've got the squad. I mean, we haven't got the squad to really rotate a great deal, but the reality is we haven't got the squad to lose players. So I would expect us to be going fringe in that game, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So let's say Wolves beat Watford. Let's say they grab a point between Arsenal and Man United in one of those games. Why can't we go for it in that game?
We can go for it, but Fosun are more interested in league position than they are in going deeper in the competition, because we're not going to win that cup. The best one in the world, we're not going to win it. So I think they'd be happier with us.
I don't believe that. I don't believe
Leicester won it last year.
I don't believe there's a team that good that beats everybody. Man City had a monopoly on the League Cup. They went out. Someone else is going to win that this year. I don't believe there's. I mean, look how close. I mean, don't get me wrong. We had to tuck in, but we've taken these big sides really, really close. It has been ugly, but that's the way we've played. And I don't believe that there's all these teams are unbeatable. I think the FA Cup is up for grabs. You take it seriously. And you get to, I mean, I'll be another day out of Wembley in a semi-final. I mean, it was the worst and best day in my life at the same time.
I get your point. They're not unbeatable, but if you're looking at the reality of it, they've got the squads. Yeah, they've got the squads to put a cup team out and then make that cup team stronger when they play slightly better teams in the Premier League. We can't do that. In reality, we've got probably a squad of 15 at most at the moment.
I think the problem is, sorry, I was going to say, I think the problem is that that fixture comes off the back of a ridiculous programme. If we play all of those games, then everyone, including Sheffield United, will put out weakened teams. And I mean, I know we made some changes, but I'm right in saying when we went to Forest early on in the League Cup, he went perhaps a bit stronger than we thought he would.
Yeah, strong.
But so it's just like both teams will be weak and under strength for the Sheffield United game. Hopefully our squad players will be better than their squad players, and then you just see where it takes you, really, don't you? But again, at the end of it, you ain't even got to win it, have you, to get into Europe? Even if you lose the final against someone who's in the top 4 or 5 or whatever, you could get a European place off the back of it like that. So just see where it goes. But I agree with Ryan. That's the first time I was really peed off with Nuno, was when he did that. I mean, after Chorley, God knows how we should have got beat by Chorley, shouldn't we? Really?
Yeah.
And then, if we'd have done it in the previous round against Crystal Palace, okay, then. But to have gone strong against them and then put those players
It didn't make any sense. I know we're going back, and I'm grateful for what he did, but there was a few strange things that happened with Nuno that season, and I just don't get it. Was he terrified of being relegated, and it was at all costs?
I think he was terrified of the sack, and I think he knew at that point it was all eggs in one basket. I think things had changed. He could see where we were going, and I was getting worried. I don't know about you boys. And
Adama saved Wolves last season.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think, and even now, you say we're an established Premier League team, and this is me. Again, but even now, I count how many points we are clear of the bottom 3. Even now,
every week.
If and when we get to 38 or 4, that's when I can start enjoying the season. Then think, right then, now take the handbrake off and go out and enjoy it. But that's from having so many broken dreams over the year. Yeah.
Quick question, boys: who's Wolves, Sheffield United? Who's Gibbs White playing for on that day?
He won't be playing for anybody that day, mate, because he's on loan for the season. So he'll be in the stands watching. Evening to Wayne. There's a regular contributor to the Wolves report on here, and also on our sort of digital phone-ins we do after some of the games on the evening. So thanks, Wayne, for your continued contribution support. Much appreciated. And Merry Christmas, Wayne, as well. Thank you. Let's go on to something a little bit more positive than wanting to throw the FA Cup against Southampton as Nuno did. Highlights of the season so far. Now, I know what mine is, and I mean, the amount of times I kissed Knocker that day, almost shed a tear, hurt my shins on the seats, had my heart broken, had my heart fixed. It was incredible. So I'll start off.
Yeah, Brentford at home, you're right. You're absolutely spot on.
So 2-0 down, 10 minutes to go, 3-2 at Villa Park. I mean, I've got a good friend of mine that does the logo work for me on the Wolves report. And I went out last week and I said to him, no matter what happens, that to us, I don't think that's ever going to be beaten. That was the greatest away day of my life. We were terrible. It was a robbery. I mean, is everyone else sharing that day as their highlight of the season so far? Or have you got something second to that then to add? Daz?
I was sitting in the press box. And I've got Mel Eves here and Gary Thompson there. And it's all kicking off. I've got to do a phone in. So my head's slightly different. And the only thing we could ask at the end was, how the hell did that happen? Because nobody could work out what on earth happened. And
they've scored 3 goals since then, halfway.
No, I think we're on 2 since then.
Yeah, it's just surreal, wasn't it? So that was... and for me, I think it was probably West Ham and the Everton games. The Everton game particularly because that was the first game I'd seen us win at Molineux since lockdown in the South Bank. When in my seat,
I've been down to that game,
yeah, and so to be there after 2 years or whatever it was to actually see them win at home again from I say seat where we were standing up, but that was pretty special moment for me, really. So, yeah.
Tyler, what's your highlight of the season so far? Anything you obviously you can't say Villa or Everton there.
Yeah, as you know, I didn't go to the Villa game, but the phone call with you two, a big knock after the game, was definitely my highlight of the season. I think from a personal level, without going too deep, it was the West Ham game for me. I took my old man and my little one, and the three of us were there. And I thought I was going to the West End game thinking, we were all dreading the worst, weren't we?
Yeah, that West Ham were looking good then, weren't they?
2-3-0. Oh, what's going to happen? And I thought it was a really complete performance. The Villa game was incredible, the way we won it. But I think from a complete 90-minute performance, the West Ham one was probably the best one I've seen. And because my lad was there and my dad was there,
that's
it was
nice,
just nice from a personal perspective,
Knocker, now, we rekindled our bromance that day at Villa Park. All kinds of things happened. I mean, the conversations we were having up until the 80th minute, I mean, you could not repeat. You couldn't even write them and share them in secret. We were saying some terrible things. We were really, really upset with performance. But yeah, give me your view on your highlight of the season so far, mate.
Well, obviously it's that game, isn't it? It was something I took with me. I mean, whoever finishes above who, it's irrelevant because they're never going to get that one back. If I had to pick a second highlight, obviously without the games that you lot have already mentioned, I quite enjoyed the Spurs game in the Cup, and Pedence made it 2-2 because I was sat right behind that, and I thought that was a really entertaining game.
Yeah,
that was a really good game. I felt,
it
but
looked
obviously
like a 5-0, didn't it? At one point, really?
It did, yeah, it did. But I think with the Southampton away as well, with Raul getting that goal and the emotion behind that, there's been a few highlights.
I forgot that.
Well, I didn't want to put you out there, but you were there with your lad for that one. But
with my lad as well, I forgot.
It's too late now. You got to go back. It's too late, son. It's over.
I hope your lad's watching this, mate.
But yeah, I mean,
don't worry, he's gone for a beer.
There's not a great deal of highlights, is there? But I think there's been some moments in that Villa game in particular. Whatever Bruno does now as a Wolves, the rest of his time at Wolves, that one's going to live forever with me because that was so special. That was such an incredible last night, 9-10 minutes, especially with the free kick, and we're all stood there and the emotion of it when he's lining it up, and it's an awful free kick.
You said to me, Knocker, and I'm not just making this up for the podcast. You said to me, "This is going in, son," and I was like, "It's not happening, mate." I was like, "Let's take the point. Let's run. We don't deserve this. We've been terrible. Let's go." And then it's the worst free kick, and it bobbles in. All right, and then. There's semi-naked men. There's trainers. There's people over seats. There's like my eyes
and
are
that
full
was
of
just the press box.
Melo's must have loved that goal. Evening, Mel.
We said at the time, didn't we? I mean, I had to take a pregnancy test after that one because the amount of people who jumped on top of me, and that it was just an incredible moment, and it was just fantastic. I mean, the position where we were sat as well, you had the players running at you and the passion on their face, and we spoke more about the football, the amount of money footballers get. It meant absolutely nothing in that moment. It was such a passionate, incredible moment, and it's just the face. It's Connor Cody when he's the ball's whacked him and gone in, and he's running towards you like he's hit a 40-yard screamer, and it was just a fantastic 10 minutes. I could have died a happy man after that. I really could.
I mean, we came out the ground, Knocker. We went back in the car with your dad, and like as Tyler said, it was the best phone call of his life. Yeah. There were three men that were absolutely off their football tits on. We're still talking about Villa, Tyler, and we're absolutely off our tits on football joy because I mean, I'm just saying it, but I don't think that's ever good. Unless we win a trophy. I don't think it's going to get better than that.
But we said at the time, though, didn't we? It's not about hating the Villa. It's about sitting in Villa's shadow for the last sort of 35 years of me being a Wolves fan. Just watching Villa be in European competitions, watching them challenging at the top half of the Premier League, while we're ratting around in the Championship, and the fact that we managed to drag them back and have a moment like that. And we've all got Villa mates, haven't we? I mean, we're local to the area. We've grown up in this area, so. To do that to them in that moment was just absolutely, it was phenomenal. I absolutely love that. I still relive that now. I'm still on YouTube when I'm supposed to be working and looking at all them little bits and bobs and all the crowd celebrations, all the videos.
Paramedics can't go on YouTube.
Yeah, you wait it up. You give him another 5 minutes, he'll be all right.
Is that what you're looking at on YouTube?
I'm just going to drop this question. This is from my dad, evening dad. I think the spine of the team is very strong. A midfielder can run with the ball. Another striker for Christmas, please. What do you guys think? I think Kilman has solved our problem in the centre of defence. Yeah, absolutely bang on. This is the man that taught me about football. So, yeah, he can take lots of credit for the little bit of knowledge I've got on football. But, Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the team's screaming out for, really, isn't it? A centre midfielder that can travel with the ball. Now, that's no disrespect to Neves or Joe or Dendoncker. They're all pretty much the same kind of player. Dendonker's a bit more physical, probably a better engine in terms of able to get into the box a bit more. But for Wolves to go to the next level, should they decide to spend some of that £30 million, after we've seen the improvement in Kilman, we don't need to get a centre-back now. Is it just now, if you could get one player in January, is it a box-to-box midfielder?
I think I've said before, I'm a great believer in the spine of the team, and we've got the goalkeeper. I think it's an upgrade. The 3 centre-backs at the moment, excellent. I think remains to be seen how good Yerson Mosquera is, but he's the one he wants to play the back 4.
He's certainly got the physical attributes, and
yeah. And we need a different type of ball carrying midfielder, someone a little bit more aggressive. And then we do need another centre forward, not as cover. I don't believe that people sign players as cover anymore in the Premier League. It's got to be as competition, and you need to have 2 players for every single position, and that's what Bruno Lage wants. So that then it is cover as such. You can rotate. There's suspensions, there's injuries, there's loss of form, and it's a big ask to ask someone that intensity. No one's going to play unless you're the goalie or Connor Cody or whatever. No one's going to play 38 games in a typical sort of season. So you need to have that, and that's where we're still short. And so for me, it would be box to box midfielder and another Jimenez type striker to bring in. And if that means sacrificing Adama for 20, 30 million, whatever it is they get for him now, we're halfway through this. I love watching him, and I'll change my mind about him every bloody 5 minutes.
Yeah, he kills us, doesn't he? He kills us.
Person when it comes to Adama. We're halfway through the season. No goals, no assists, but probably got a great clips video again.
Would you sell him, Daz? Would you sell him to get those 2 players? If
the bid comes in now, I think I would. And then, and with Neto, I'm guessing he'll probably need a pre-season when he comes back. We might see a little bit of him here and there. And who knows? He's a young lad, and he might come back all guns firing. But I'm guessing we'll hopefully still have him next August, and we might see the best of him then. But personally, I think it's time now to. And if Adama,
I'll agree.
Yeah, and Mike Taylor, who I work with, made this really good analogy with Adama Traore. He said at the moment it's got to the point now where it's like you put the same lottery numbers on every week, and you're scared now not to put them on the one week.
That's great. I love that. I love that.
That's a great analogy.
That's good. With those numbers the week after, and that's how it feels with Adama. Then he'll end up somewhere, whether it's Newcastle, Liverpool, or whatever. And he'll be the player that we know he could be. But he's 25 now. How much longer do you wait? And if he wants 80 grand a week in his new contract, 80 grand a week when he ain't scored or made an assist again, I'm beginning to think it's probably his time now just to say goodbye and to reinvest that money in someone with a little bit more end product, personally.
Just to jump in, we've got 2 minutes left, guys. Sean, who is a regular contributor to the Wolves Report as well, desperate for a box-to-box scoring midfielder. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the one. If we could get one player in January, and I hate to say it, and we had to sacrifice Adama to get that in, that's exactly what I'd do. So we've got a minute and a half left, guys. Just quickly then, I think we're pretty much same team. We're going to have an agreement for the team for Watford. Adama, Podence, Raul, and everything else the same. Is everyone in agreement with that? Back to 3 up front.
Yes, I'd be going back to the 3-4-3, and the front 3 have to be Adama, Raul, Podence for me at home to Watford.
Yeah, I think we have to be as much as, and I do respect what we attempted to do and succeeded against Chelsea. A little bit unfortunate with the decision. We've not even talked about the handball. I mean, we'll talk about that another time. But if one's handball and the other's not, there's something going wrong. We've got a minute left. Knocker, first score and prediction for Watford, please.
2-0 roll.
Nice, Tyler.
2-0 Raul
Aye. Go for the hat trick, Daz. First score and prediction.
Hang on. Oh, so the linesman's just put his flag up. How long we've been on? Oh, let's go 3-1 Wolves, and it's going to be Traore's going to score after we've said all that about him. There you go.
I'm going to go.
One for them will be the corner, obviously.
All that defensive talk, and you've given Watford a goal, Daz.
I'm going to go 3-0 Wolves and Raoul the first scorer. Merry Christmas. Thank you for everyone for joining with the comments and watching the Wolves report. Thank you to Eddie Howe. Thank you to Knocker Claus. And thank you to Daz Christmas. This is the Wolves report. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. Up the Wolves, and wishing you all a Merry Christmas.